Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Bernie Sanders beatdown by the corporate Democrats who, continuing a trend, always seem more at ease and passionate going at Bernie Sanders and the left than they ever have extremist Republicans. Bernie Sanders, over the weekend through this Vote-O-Rama process for the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really just a vastly scaled back Build Back Better bill. I don't really see it lowering inflation, but that's a story for another day. To me, this is rump roast in terms of actually attacking the planetary inferno, actually lowering prescription drug prices. Get into that later. But Bernie Sanders, because this is so insufficient, this bill is so lackluster, this bill is miles and miles away from what Biden promised to the American people, he committed a political crime. He offered amendments to try and actually put in things that might actually help working people in the short term, which the capitalist class, the corporate Democrats didn't want to do. Of course, every Republican is opposed to this bill. So Bernie added amendments, including restoring the child tax credit, which, as you remember, President Manchin blocked the continuation of the child tax credit, saying that, you know, it was too expensive, we can't afford it, even going so far to say that people were using it for drugs. Well, I just did a reporting tour in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia, and I can tell you a whole lot of people I spoke with were not using it for drugs. They were using it for to help with costs for childcare, increasing grocery bills, increasing electricity bills, obviously increasing gas. They were not using it for drugs, but President Manchin let it expire. And of course, President Biden and the spineless corporate Democrats didn't fight it. So Bernie Sanders committed the crime of trying to make the bill better and actually make Manchin, Sinema vote against it. Let's take a look at Bernie Sanders on the floor trying to add this amendment that would put into the Inflation Reduction Act, restoring the child tax credit. And let's look at Sherrod Brown, who has been billed as a populist Ohio senator's response to that.
American Rescue Plan included a $300 a month child tax credit, which ended up lowering the child poverty rate in America by over 40%. Over 40% reduction in childhood poverty, which in my view was an extraordinary achievement. Unfortunately, for the millions of working parents who benefited from this program, it expired in December. This amendment would restore the expanded child tax credit for 4 years and give millions of working families the opportunity to raise their children in dignity and security. And it would be fully paid for by restoring the top corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. Let us reduce child poverty in America. Let us demand that the largest corporations stop paying their fair share of taxes. I urge my colleagues to vote for this amendment.
Madam President.
Senator from Ohio.
Yeah, Senator Sanders is right. The child tax credit is one of the most important things this body did. It brought down the child poverty rate by 40%. Almost immediately. We passed it in March. The Secretary of the Treasury had it up and running by June or by July, and it made a huge difference in people's lives. I appreciate especially the work that Senator Bennett and also Senator Booker and Senator Warnock have done on this. But I ask my colleagues to vote no, because this will bring the bill down, a very good bill. We will continue to work hard on this every step of the way. Senator Bennett, I yield to.
Madam President.
Senator from Colorado.
Madam President, last year we demonstrated to the American people that we don't have to accept this outrageous, shameful level of childhood poverty in our nation. We have 38 out of 41 industrialized countries in the world in terms of childhood poverty. The poorest people in our country are our children. And because we passed this bill last year, we demonstrated that doesn't have to be a permanent feature of our economy or of our democracy. And we have to fight to make this enhanced child tax credit permanent, and that's what I will do with people on both sides of the aisle. But this does not advance that cause, because we could lose the underlying bill, and therefore we should vote against the amendment. Thank you.
Madam President.
Senator from Vermont.
If I could ask my friend from Ohio, Why would passage of this amendment or getting 48 votes on this amendment bring the overall bill down?
Madam President, Senator Sanders, the arrangement in this is all 50 Democrats support this. We know every single Republican has voted against the child tax credit, not once last March, but twice. But we know that this is a fragile arrangement, and we've got to pass it as much as
Senator from Ohio, all time has expired.
Come on, Bernie.
The question is on the amendment.
Did you hear that at the end? Come on, Bernie. Sherrod Brown's voice. Come on, Bernie. I mean, what else? What more do you need to know? You have the appearance almost. Sherrod Brown, Michael Bennett. It almost sounds like when they're talking, they're actually winding up to actually support Bernie's amendment to restore the child tax credit. But then they tell you what Democrats always tell you. Yeah, you might be right. This might actually help people. This might actually help the working poor, but good things aren't possible. And we need to let corruption win. There is absolutely no reason, of course, that they can't have a fight on this, that Bernie in particular could say, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to vote for the actual broader bill. Because we need to debate this, and we need Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, if they're going to be the two no votes on this, to explain why they are for expanding child poverty, why they are okay with giving massive subsidies to the fossil fuel industry, Wall Street, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, but not giving subsidies to kids. Why is that? Wouldn't that be good politics to show you're fighting? Wouldn't that be good politics if, as the Democratic Party says, we need to get rid of Manchin, we need to get rid of Sinema to put them on the defensive when they're both up for re-election in 2024? But you have to start realizing they don't really care about this. And I got my problems with Bernie Sanders. I don't think his strategy has been effective in the age of President Biden. I don't think he's played hardball. I don't think he's leveraged his power the way Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have. But he's absolutely right on this point. And by the way, it wasn't just an amendment to restore the child tax credit. Here's the other amendments. He posted an amendment, cut Medicare drug prices by 50%. 99-1. 99 voted no. He was the only one that voted for it. Expanded Medicare. Bernie and two others voted yes. 97 voted no. Civilian Climate Corps. Bernie voted yes. 98 voted no. Extend the child tax credit. Bernie is the only person who voted yes. 97 voted no. Strike fossil fuel breaks. This is a climate change bill, supposedly. Bernie is the only one who voted no on fossil fuel breaks. You know how much money the federal government gives the fossil fuel industry every year? $15 billion. Now, you tell me, does it make any sense if it's really just two senators who are against expanding the child tax credit? If it's really just two senators that are against ending the filibuster, if it's really just two senators who are against doing anything real on climate change, why wouldn't the Democratic Party want to use this opportunity to fight? I'll tell you why. Because number one, it's August, and the midterms are more important to them than actually restoring the child tax credit. The midterms and getting this bill passed, which, by the way, I understand some on the left say dismiss me and others who are saying this is rump roast. And they say, well, it's better than the status quo. Yes, but we don't have time for it's better than the status quo when the planet is on fire. This isn't tongue in cheek anymore. The planet is on fire. If you Google ice caps melting, you will see unprecedented melting of ice caps, including in Greenland. So the fact that you got Sherrod Brown, you have Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett's corrupt, by the way. Sherrod Brown, a little bit more progressive. That not my cup of tea. And oh my God, Blue MAGA Twitter was going after Bernie Sanders all weekend. Like I have never seen them go after a Republican. Like I have never seen them go after Biden. Like I certainly have never seen them go after Joe Manchin. This is the corruption of the Democratic Party. And I got news for you. In 5 years, we're going to be singing the same tune. In 5 years, it's going to be the same exact thing, even if it's a bigger Democratic majority, or of course, if it's a Republican majority. And let's not give Republicans a break. Not one of them voted for any of this because they're all corrupt. They actually struck down a cap on insulin, which insulin would have been capped at $35, which frankly, I don't really think Chuck Schumer and the Democrats wanted either. So the Republicans served as the excuse why they couldn't cap insulin at $35. Actually, they used the parliamentarian as the excuse. Again, the parliamentarian is as real as WWF wrestling was when I was a kid, although I did love WWF wrestling. It's a bullshit position. It's an advisory position. She's not a legal official. She's not a law officer. She is not a binding position. Her rulings are not binding. They're advisory. Chuck Schumer, if he really wanted to, could have overruled the parliamentarian on that and a whole lot of other things. But the point is why this is very telling. It kind of shows that Bernie Sanders and the progressives, including AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, their strategy of not actually playing hardball or temporarily playing hardball. We're talking about last year when they wouldn't vote for the bipartisan infrastructure deal unless the broader Build Back Better plan was voted at the same time before they folded like cheap tents. It doesn't work because eventually, if all you do is keep folding like cheap tents, or you don't actually drive a hard bargain at the front end and hold to your position, Bernie Sanders all along could have made his vote as powerful as Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema's. He could have said, I'm not voting for this unless you to Biden, not voting for this unless $15 minimum wage is in it, not voting for this unless a public option is in it, not voting for this unless restoring the child tax credit is in it. And I will be there. I will go to West Virginia for you, President Biden. I will go to Arizona for you, President Biden. And we will fight Manchin and Sinema, who I think it was shown Manchin actually could be shamed. Of course, for Manchin's vote for this piece of rump roast, he did sneak in the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a very, very dangerous natural gas pipeline that's going underneath the steepest slopes in America, the Appalachian Trail. When it explodes, it has a blast radius of 2 miles. I covered this in 2018 on the ground in Virginia. He also snuck in, of course, more breaks for the fossil fuel industry, and essentially almost like a one-to-one for every clean energy project, we need to give more drilling permits. So that's why I find it hard to believe. I understand environmentalists at this point are saying, well, let's take this. It's something in terms of the tax credits, grants and all that, and live to fight another day. But how many live to fight another days are we going to do? That another day isn't coming in this corrupt system and with this corrupt Democratic Party. By the way, Chuck Schumer did not overrule the parliamentarian on the insulin cap. I wonder if him being the number 2 recipient, according to the lever, of Big Pharma's campaign donations has anything to do with that. So this tells you everything you need to know, that the Democratic Party did more to fight Bernie Sanders, putting forth very reasonable amendments, than actually fighting Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, or the Republicans. And by the way, to the people watching this who would say, well, Jordan, it was fragile and you don't want to risk losing Manchin or losing Sinema for this. Well, that's why you fight. That's why you get people together to fight them, and you put the onus on them. You put them on defense to explain to the American people why we can't add the child tax credit to this. You bring forward people that had human interest stories on how the child tax credit really, really helped them, in many cases, saving them from eviction, saving them from food lines, et cetera, et cetera. You demand that President Biden use the bully pulpit of the presidential office to go after Sinema and Manchin, saying this will be our last opportunity to get this in, and we don't know what's going to happen in the midterms. It would be a lot harder if Republicans retake the House and or the Senate. But when you don't fight, this is what you get. And, you know, I understand Bernie Sanders is not Joe Manchin. I understand Bernie Sanders actually cares about the American people and does not want to block legislation, even if it's rump roast, if there's some good things in it. And that's kind of the problem on the progressive base. You have people that actually have principles and at the end of the day are going to accept things that are really, really insufficient, do not meet the moment because they want progress. That's why they're progressives. But also, if you don't play hardball, if you don't fight, we're always going to get this. We're always going to get Obama running on a public option, but then through, just a few senators, we could only get a Republican healthcare plan because we didn't have the votes. We're not going to bother fighting them or rallying the American people to fight these few corrupt politicians. It's really outrageous. And it shows you, I mean, we'll talk about this longer another time, but it really shows you the progressive movement in this country electorally is in big trouble. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.